Hi, everyone. Let me just make sure that we are going, which hopefully in a little bit, um, if we're not going already. Let's see. Yep, there we are. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Don't Watch at Night Creepy Cocktail Hour number 17, right? I believe so. Um, Happy Friday. Happy summer, I guess. Happy FIFA. Happy World Cup. Um, I don't know if you're as excited as members of my family and us too, for that matter, are that Mexico um, won. And what's so frustrating is like I was watching that match, and like the first half of the game, I was like, no, nothing. And then like all the cool stuff happened in the second half, which I didn't get to see because like children got caught up watching other things, and so I didn't get to watch the major points of the match. So thankfully we have it. We were able to go back and watch the rest of the game at a later time. But yeah, full fail that I did not get to watch it in those moments and when everything was happening in real time. Anyway, let's get to cocktail. Let me, because I have my agenda and I'm gonna fall off the rails real fast if I don't stick with it. Let's talk about the cocktail. Now, does a Black Manhattan necessarily have to do anything with the seaside coastal hauntings, which is kind of what we're talking about today? Um, Perhaps. Am I going anywhere near New York or Manhattan today? I'm not. I don't believe so. I don't think that's on lists that I have linked for you guys. But but I just wanted to drink a Black Manhattan, and we'll get to why in a second. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Valerie. Don't Watch at Night is a spooky little podcast dedicated to lifting up Latin American horror and Spanish language horror. It's a podcast that I host with my sister Veronica, and Creepy Cocktail Hour is sort of a little side thing that I've been doing now for a little over a year. And it started out as like a Patreon perk, and it still is a Patreon perk. But every now and then we kick a cocktail hour over to our YouTube community as well, which is what we're doing today. So if you're joining from YouTube, hello. If you're joining from Patreon, hello. If you're joining from Patreon, you got all of the resources for this chat today ahead of time, including the inspiration for today's cocktail. But if you're joining from YouTube, then you didn't receive any of that. But I always post it as soon as the live stream is over. So you'll have those things as soon as I'm done here. Okay. But yeah, Black Manhattan. We are inspired today a little bit by the cocktail connoisseur Spirited LA, also known as Hannah. I always forget her name, and I should know. Her name is Hannah Chamberlain. She runs Spirited LA uh, on Instagram, on most social media. You can find her at spiritedla.com. She's great. She does lot of really wonderful cocktails and she also touches in with a lot of really cool history, world history, and I want to say World War II history whenever she can. So she's a really, really awesome cocktail maker. And she recently posted a video where she talked about what she likes to call her, what does she call it? Her support Manhattan? Her, like a support animal, but it's her support Black Manhattan. And so, anyway, I linked that video for Patreon subscribers, and I don't know if I can share it here. Um, I can try, but I don't know if I can, but I will link to her video after the live stream is over and you'll get to see it. But basically, a Black Manhattan, for those who are unfamiliar, is, and I'm pulling this information. Normally, a Black Manhattan calls for rye whiskey. I don't have that today. I'm working with just a bourbon, and I'm trying this Chestnut Farms Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And the reason I'm trying this is because it was, I think, like a gold winner at one point, maybe in 2025. I'm not sure. So I'm always looking to try new stuff. And so I hadn't had this before and I decided to pick it up. I've been enjoying it. It's fine. Is it like my favorite? No. And as a matter of fact, the spouse and I are going to a bourbon tasting class tomorrow afternoon. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, I'll get to try some things I haven't tried before and maybe pick up a few things to bring home. So that's the bourbon we're going with. But normally, you would do a rye whiskey, and I did have it, and then I guess I didn't save it like a dummy. Um, Hold on, friends. Am I prepared? The Black Manhattan, just for those of us unfamiliar, was created in 2005, so not that old, at a San Francisco bar called Bourbon and Branch by Todd Smith, a bartender named Todd Smith. It's a simple variation on the classic Manhattan with Averna Amaro right here, subbing in for sweet vermouth. So where a Manhattan would call for sweet vermouth, you're subbing in the Averna. Um, and with a second type, that's what I don't have. I don't have bitters. My Black Manhattan's not going to have bitters. Damn, forgot. But you would do Angostura bitters and you would do orange bitters. Hannah Chamberlain's cocktail, I think she just mentions orange bitters. So sad I don't have orange bitters. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be missing vital essence. That's on me. But anyway, these adjustments result in a heavier, slightly more bitter rendition of its forebear with additional depth of flavor from that herbal caramel note that you get in the Averno. So let's build our cocktail. Um, Spirited LA's variation on this is she does 3/4 ounce of the Averno Amaro. She does about a 1/4 ounce of, she says, a fun liqueur that she happens to have on hand. It can be any number of things. The first time I made this, I made it with a 1/4 ounce of creme de cacao. Today I'm doing a 1/4 ounce of this Nola coffee liqueur because I have it and I like it. So we'll give that a try. And then you would do, controversially, she says, Hannah Chamberlain likes to do 3 ounces of bourbon, which makes for a very strong cocktail. I'm not that brave, so we're just doing 2 ounces of the Chestnut Farms bourbon that I have on hand. So let's build our cocktail. Important to note in this recipe, both her recipe and the liqueur.com recipe, which, by the way, is a link I found late in the game. So Patreon folks, you didn't get it ahead of time like you normally would. I will update you with that later on after the show. Okay. So we stir this, we don't shake it. So let me add my ice to the glass. Building crap in the office is not always so easily done. Give me the ice. Give it up. I want it. Whatever. We don't need all this ice anyway. It's fine. Okay, so 2 ounces of the bourbon. I always pre-measure my ingredients ahead of time. It just makes my life easier, avoids mistakes if I can. The 1/4 ounce, which I kind of just eyeballed. I don't really know how to measure a 1/4 ounce. So 1/4 ounce of the coffee liqueur. That might even be less than a 1/4 ounce. I don't know. And then 3/4 ounce of the Averno Averna Amaro. Sorry. And then you would do a couple dashes of Angostura bitters, couple dashes of orange bitters. I don't have that. I'm so sad. What was I thinking? You don't want to skip the bitters because it does add, it adds a little bit of finesse to the drink. It does offer spice and flavor that you don't want to skip out on. So, this will be lacking in that regard, but this will still be a plenty good cocktail, I'm hoping. Okay, and then I had ice down my glass for quite a while, and I even had it in the freezer so it achieved that nice frosted edge that I like so much, but unfortunately, it's been sitting out with ice in it, mind you, so it's not going to be quite as frosty as it was in the beginning. Okay, let me try to get the ice out of here without making a huge mess. Okay. I don't even have a towel here if I make a huge mess. Okay. And now, see, we've been stirring. Now we're going to strain it into my glass. I just thrifted these glasses this week. So I'm trying out my new thrifted glassware. Ah. And then I am going to garnish with my cherries. I have two drippy cherries. Okay, and that's it. That is my Black Manhattan, which is, I don't even know that you would call it a summer drink, but I'm drinking it and it's summer. And so cheers to me. Happy Friday. Let's give it a taste. It's very tasty. I am missing those bitters just because like I don't miss the taste of, what I'm trying to say is I always pick up the taste of bitters in drinks, like an old fashioned Manhattan, things like that. So the fact that it's missing, I can definitely taste that. But it's still really good. The coffee liqueur is really nice. Addition to this, gives it a fun kind of after dinner drinks vibe. Have I had dinner yet? No, I haven't. So, but I'm going to dinner after this. So this is like an aperitif. Okay, let's get to the topic at hand, my friends. Let me make sure that we're still going. And we are, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, we are. Okay. Let me cross that off the list. I do want to tell you also before we launch into the topic at hand, I do want to remind you guys, those of you who subscribe to Don't Watch at Night, the podcast, and listen to us on a regular basis, we are coming back. We've been on break. We always take June off to enjoy a little time with our families. We are coming back with all new episodes in July. July is going to be one of our Step Outside Spanish Language months. Generally, we watch a lot of Spanish language horror films. The podcast itself is in English, as you know, those of you who listen. But we are going to be taking a look at other language films in the month of July, and so I'm not going to tell you anything about what our first episode of July is going to be. I will tell you it is a Polish horror film, and that's it. More to come. So new episodes coming to you in July, and then we have book club discussion coming in early August. We're going to be discussing The Haunting of Alejandro by V. Castro, which is a great book. I've been reading it already and loving that. So yeah, let's see. Oh, and then what else have I been doing during the break? I've been enjoying Widow's Bay. Raise your hand if you watch Widow's Bay and love it. It's such a freaking great show. It is such a mix of spooky, dark comedy. It's fantastic. Everybody on that show is amazing. I love it. I'm not moving through it admittedly as fast as I would like because my spouse is slow to sit down with me and watch it, but we are I told him, I was like, "Hey, either you sit down and watch the show with me or I will leave you in the dust because I need to get through these episodes." Because the thing is like I can't even enjoy any of the online discourse on the show because I have to avoid spoilers. So for me, it's like I gotta get through this lest something be spoiled for me. I'm gonna eat the second cherry already. I had originally just had one cherry. They're so good though. Couldn't resist. Couldn't resist that second cherry. Okay. So, sorry, do I have stuff on my face? I don't. Okay. So, what we're talking about today is hauntings along the seaside because there's some really fun articles that I came across. And is this somewhat inspired by Widow's Bay? I don't know, probably. I'm sure. There's some really fun articles I came across that just sort of talk up coastal communities on either side of the continental United States where you can go and be spooked. So let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Every single time I do this, it's like I've never done it before. Okay, so hold on. Here we go. Also share tab audio. Why would I want to share that? What if I said no to that? Okay, yeah, we don't need to share tab audio. You don't need that in your life. Okay, here we go. You should be seeing this: sun, sand, and spirits, haunted beach towns you need to visit. This is from beach.com by Holly Riddle, and this was posted in October of 2025. So it's just a list of great communities you can visit where you might encounter paranormal activity. So there's Pawleys Island, South Carolina, which is just south of Myrtle Beach. Um, you'll hear tales of a most famous ghost in the bunch named the Gray Man. The Gray Man appears in all gray, and if he does show up, it's a sign that a hurricane is on its way. Some say the Gray Man is actually a famed pirate Blackbeard, but that theory is up for much debate. There is the ghost of Alice Flagg, who I do have more information for you, and we will talk about it a little bit later. She is known to walk Polly's Island as well. Flagg's backstory is a typical one. She fell in love. She was forbidden from marrying her suitor and then died shortly after. She was buried at All Saints Episcopal Church Cemetery. And if you visit the cemetery and are married, you may feel her pulling on your wedding ring. So, lots of fun stuff there. In St. Augustine, Florida, this was the oldest European settled city in the United States, established in 1565. And so they say it's no surprise that it's haunted. You don't have to look long or far to find a ghost tour or business that claims so. Let me take a sip. There are sites like the old jail, which was built in 1891. There, some say that they still see Sheriff Joe Perry watching over his domain, unable to move on. That jail was built by Henry Flagler, who is still residing in St. Augustine. He's taken up digs at Flagler College in a building that was originally a hotel where his funeral was held in 1913. It is said that during the funeral, the windows were closed because old traditions dictated that windows be left open during funerals to allow the deceased spirits to pass on. Because they were closed, he is trapped within the building. Meanwhile, multiple ghosts call St. Augustine Lighthouse home, including two lighthouse keepers' daughters who drowned offshore and a different lighthouse keeper who likewise died on the grounds. I tried to look for information on those lighthouse keeper daughters and could not find it. But I bet you if you find yourself in St. Augustine, Florida, you could learn all about it taking a tour of the St. Augustine Lighthouse. There's Jekyll Island, Georgia, which just this picture alone is amazing. I would love to do a I would love to go and document that with my camera. You can go book a stay at the Jekyll Island Club where you may encounter General Lloyd Aspinwall, who helped found the club but died before it could open. Now he walks the property that he never saw to completion. If you visit Dubignon Cemetery, you might just see some floating orbs. It's rumored that the small family graveyard is filled with empty graves. And then at Driftwood Beach, you may spot some footsteps appearing out of thin air, courtesy of a man who died confronting turtle poachers at work in the surf. There's Camp May, New Jersey, where you'll get sites like Camp May Lighthouse, where a ghostly woman and her child reside, the Washington Inn. A ghost named Elizabeth knows the kitchen staff and servers by name. There's the Southern Mansion, where the original owner's niece has been stuck around long after her demise. If you book a stay at Congress Hall, you may see some ghosts that aren't quite over the fact that the original building burnt to the ground back in 1878. At Higbee Beach, one of the beach's namesakes, Thomas Higbee, supposedly walks up and down the coast wearing a long coat and nothing else. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Let me take one more sip. You know what I will say about the Black Manhattan, this variation that I made? The first time I made it with the creme de cow, that really adds a touch of sweetness, obviously. With the coffee liqueur, not as sweet, still tasty, but it's already a very boozy cocktail to begin with. But there is a lack of sweetness to it. So just know that if you model your cocktail off of what I did here, the creme de cow might be a little bit sweeter and thus make for a more palatable drink for you. Mm-mm-mm. But it is tasty. Whitby, England. Folklore says you can indeed see ghosts in the Abbey ruins. Oh, so the town's creep factor gets an upgrade thanks to its connections to Dracula. It is said that the Whitby Abbey ruins inspired Bram Stoker's famous work, and numerous settings around Whitby show up in the tale. Um, so yeah, this is along the Yorkshire coast, by the way. So across the pond, as we might say. Folklore says you can indeed see ghosts in the abbey ruins, including the ghost of St. Hilda, who was said to have prayed the town free from a snake infestation. Other haunted spots include nearby St. Mary's churchyard, where multiple ghosts live. The most interesting story there is a Whitby sailor died on land and is buried there at the churchyard. Headless horses beating a ghost coach filled with skeletons will visit the churchyard to fetch the sailor from his grave. You'll even potentially hear some ghosts when walking the 199 steps that lead up to the ruins and churchyard. The ghosts of monks carrying coffins up the steps to their final resting places. This is a place I'd like to visit. I would like to go to there. Sign me up, please. Moss Beach, California. Lots of activity. I guess it's something called the Moss Beach Distillery. On its own, it's worth a visit due to its intriguing history. It started out as a speakeasy in the 1920s and then it became a restaurant after Prohibition ended. However, the distillery has been featured on many a television show and in articles, not just for not just for its history, but for its haunting. The Blue Lady is the resident ghost, and she is a woman dressed all in blue. The story behind her restlessness differs. Sometimes she's unlucky in love and drowns herself in the nearby ocean. Sometimes she has an affair with a pianist, and her husband then takes her life. Whatever the origin story, though, she's gained quite the name in California and beyond. And then, of course, there's Long Beach, California, where we have the biggest haunted attraction, the Queen Mary. And I almost wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive on Queen Mary, but we might have to save that for like another. I don't know. This was Seaside hauntings. There might be more of like a maritime hauntings. I don't know, something a little bit more like about specifically just ships. In which case, the Queen Mary would be up for grabs for discussion. So, yeah, lots of fun stuff there. Manzanita, Oregon, which is another beautiful place. There's the nearby Old Wheeler Hotel where ghost orbs hang out near the basement and resident ghosts like to watch TV. You can even see where they've left an indentation on the bed, and more creepily, you can see that they've turned the television to a movie on a channel that doesn't exist in the present day. Whoa, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, let me go ahead and let me. How do I stop shares? Not that. Stop share. Okay. Yay. So, let me see. Let's talk a little bit more about Alice Flagg for a little bit because when I read about her in that first listing, I thought, well, I we need to know more about her. So, one second, let me pull up that link. Um, Hold on, friends. The Haunting Legend of Alice Flagg. Okay. So this is from a website called crazysisterfishandcruises.com. I'm guessing they offer fishing and cruises. And this was posted in 2025 as well. So who was she? Alice Flagg was a young woman from a prominent wealthy family in the Murrells Inlet area during the mid 19th century. The Flagg family resided at the Hermitage, which was a grand plantation home that still stands today as a testament to the area's antebellum past. Remember, this is South Carolina. Alice's life seemed destined to follow the expectations of Southern high society, but fate had other plans. A love forbidden. As the story goes, Alice fell deeply in love with a young man of lower social status, a humble lumberman. Lumberman? Lumberman? Anyway, their romance blossomed in secret as Alice's family, particularly her brother, Dr. Allard Flagg, disapproved of the match. I wonder why. That's weird. Despite their objections, Alice accepted a simple engagement ring from her beloved, wearing it on a ribbon around her neck to keep it hidden. When her brother discovered the secret, he was furious. Ooh. Determined to sever the relationship, he sent her away to a boarding school in Charleston, heartbroken and isolated. Alice soon fell gravely ill, likely from the malaria or another fever common in the region at the time. Desperate to return home, she made the arduous journey back to Murrells Inlet, but she was way too weak to recover. So, the ring and the restless spirit. Before Alice died, her brother discovered the ring, and in a final act of cruelty, he ripped it from her neck and discarded it. What a dig. Anyway, Alice passed away shortly after, never reuniting with her true love. She was buried in All Saints Episcopal Church Cemetery in Pawleys Island, her grave marked only by a plain, unadorned stone engraved with the name Alice. Dang, was that also at the hands of her cruel brother? Legend has it that Alice's spirit still roams the area searching for her lost ring. Visitors to her grave, now it makes sense. Visitors to her grave often leave tokens, particularly rings, as a sign of respect and remembrance. Some claim to have seen her ghost, which is a figure in a white dress, sometimes clutching her chest where the ring once lay. Others report feeling a sudden chill or a mysterious tugging sensation, perhaps on your ring, when standing near her resting place. If you go to visit her grave, um, it is both a historical and haunting experience. The churchyard is serene, shaded by ancient oaks, draped with Spanish moss, adding to the otherworldly atmosphere. And on that note, I like South Carolina for sure. Um, I be I I've heard tell and I've seen photos of lovely cemeteries in that area. So if you go to visit her grave, if you go to visit any cemetery, especially historical ones, but anyone's, be respectful. We had a big talk about this on one of our creepy cocktail hours when we talked about. I mean, I definitely showed you some of my cemetery photography, and I kind of talked to you about my tips and tricks for going. You always want to be respectful. You want to not step on graves in as far as that is possible. You want to be quiet, and you want to avoid taking photos of, like, I for my own purposes, I avoid taking photos of more recent tombstones. A tombstone that might be from the 18th century or something of that nature is often a historical work. And even though, I'm not saying that there's not a person there resting there that should be respected, there is. But if you can clearly identify, like if the tombstone is so old that it's not even legible anymore, that is more preferable to photograph than perhaps a tombstone where you can clearly see names, dates, things of that nature. Like, so I never take photos of fresh graves or newer tombstones that are in perfect, um, that are in a pristine state and easily legible, because you don't want to, and then to post that online, you don't want to put that information out there. You want to respect people's privacy, and you want to respect their living families' privacy. Yeah, so as the legend that lives on, the story of Alice Flagg continues to captivate locals and visitors alike, blending history with the supernatural. It's a poignant reminder of love's power, societal expectations, and the echoes of the past that still resonate today. Um, yeah, so very cool information on Alice Flagg. And I don't know much else about her, like her life, other than her death. So, um, might be something to go and do a little extra reading on. So, what was so fun about, and I'll take you to this next link here in a second. What was so fun about this next link is that, hold on, let me get back over here, is that Galveston shows up on it. And I'm from Texas. I'm Texas based. Those of you who listen to the show already know that, but Veronica and I are both Texas based. So we went to Galveston about 2 years ago for spring break. I never been to Galveston a bunch, but this was the first time that we kind of went. We're like, we're going to go for spring break, and we're just going to throw just two kids with their own three kids. We're going to go. We're going to have adventures in Galveston for spring break and live it up. Nice little local trip, easy trip. So we went, we had a blast. It was so much fun. And because of this, because we didn't have an itinerary, because we didn't have an agenda, we just went. We just every day it was like, "What are we gonna do today?" And we would go and discover something. And so we stumbled upon a place called the Bishop's Palace, which is really cool, and I'll give you information about that. And I was like, when I was looking this up, I was like, "Oh, I'll share some photos that I took on that trip," because I did. I took photos. Let me adjust my camera a little bit. And and then I was going and looking at my photos, and like, of everything I took on that trip with my camera, I didn't take any pictures of Bishop's Palace with my camera. I have 2 photos that I took with my phone, which is so weird because I know I took more photos inside the palace, um, than I have on my phone. So I don't know where those photos went. They mysteriously disappeared from my phone. Paranormal activity? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But let's get to the, 3rd article I have for you, which is gonna, I think this is the one where Bishop's Palace is gonna come up, and then I do have more information on, because I was like, "Ooh, Galveston." I do have more information on fun haunted aspects of Galveston, which I never really knew. And in hindsight, I should have known because Galveston's been the site of a lot of, um, dark things over, you know, generations, and tragedies, due to like storms and things of that nature. So it's no surprise. But did I know any of it beforehand? I didn't. So I'm gonna have to do some reading up on this, get myself educated. And it's a bummer because I was there, and had I known, I would have been like, let's go do some haunted crap. Okay, let me share this article. And a lot of these things on this list, um, are things we've already seen. So, 5 most haunted coastal cities to go boating in. And this is from nowake.com. I guess this is for people who boat. This is not me, but if you're somebody who boats. New Orleans, Louisiana, obviously. And New Orleans, Louisiana is where we as a family went for spring break this past year, right? Well, no, not this past year, this past March of this year. We went to New Orleans and we had an amazing time. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. But we didn't get to do any fun haunted stuff because we just didn't have time. But like, I wanted to take my kids to all the beautiful cemeteries that they have there, and we just didn't have time. So on another trip, we'll do it for sure. So when most people think of New Orleans, they think of Mardi Gras, French Quarter, delicious food. But if you take a closer look, you'll see the darker side to the Big Easy, filled with above ground cemeteries, voodoo shops, and a few vampire legends. Some of the most ghostly places in the Gulf of Mexico bordering town are Mural's Restaurant in Jackson Square, Pirates Alley, the Le Petit Theater, and so many others. There's Savannah, Georgia, which is similar to New Orleans, a southern city filled with plenty of historic charm. I've never been. I've been through Georgia, but I've never stopped to visit Georgia. I'm sure Savannah, Georgia is lovely. St. Augustine, Florida, already on our list. We know that. Washington, D.C. Most would agree that our nation's capital is a scary place to be any time of year. Okay. True that. But there's plenty of historical prominence, and there's no surprise that there's a long list of ghost stories that follow. The White House is actually rumored to be one of the most haunted locations in the city, with spirits of past presidents like Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, and William Henry Harrison still roaming the halls. Lafayette Square Park and the Cutts Madison House are also 2 spooky spots to investigate. And then we have Galveston, Texas. And for this to make the top 5, I'm like, dang. The island town has quite a dramatic history that's filled with pirates, devastating hurricanes that I knew, and other stories of tragedy. The Bishop's Palace is one famous haunt on the island, while others include Ashton Villa Mansion, and the Hotel Galvez and St. Mary's Orphanage. So, on that note, I went a digging because I knew I'd been to the Bishop's Palace, and so I was like, we walked through that. We took photos. Of course, like, the thing about the Bishop's Palace is it is a house that's been converted into a museum, so it's filled with people. And so, are you going to necessarily have a paranormal experience while you're there when it's full of people in the middle of the day? I don't know, probably not. I didn't, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. And certainly, if you go at a more quiet time of day, or perhaps in later hours, I don't know, maybe if you did an all-nighter there, then you might, who knows? There are certainly I will tell you, it's a beautiful place. Let me go ahead and show you the photo as I'm talking. It's a beautiful, beautiful, l well-kept house. There is I don't know how else to say it. I'll say a church room. There's a room. It's let me just show you the photo. Okay. Let me stop talking and let me show you the photo. Okay. So you should be able to see my what happens if I do this? Present. Okay. So these are the two photos I have. I have a photo of the exterior, the bishop's palace, and then this beautiful staircase in like the center of the room as you're walking into the house. The basement level of the house is has been converted into a gift shop, and then you like there's just all these winding staircases up to all levels of this house. You have beautiful stained glass windows. It's gorgeous and so many and this is where I'm like so mad because I know I took so many photos and I'm like, where are they? I took photos of light fixtures. I took photos of like I can't even adequately explain to you all of the wood carvings that are in this house, pristinely kept. And then there is on one of the floors, there is a room that was their that was their church. And so you walk in and there's like an altar and there's some pews. It's not like a church. It's like I call it a church room for lack of any other way to put it. But because it is the bishop's palace, and so this is where the bishops stayed. Um, would make sense that there would be a room for prayer. And so that's what that room symbolizes. But I took photos of the bedrooms and all of that stuff, and I don't have it. And I just don't know where on my phone it would. I tell you what, if I find it on my phone after the fact, I will share it, all of those photos over on Patreon. So if you're not part of our Patreon, do go join. It is free to join. We do not have any tiers. So you just join us and be part of a free community where you get access to lots of fun stuff. So anyway, I will try to find those photos because the house is lovely. And so um lovely houses deserve to be haunted. Let me see if I can find let's read a little bit about the Bishop's Palace because me babbling on about it and showing you photos doesn't necessarily do it justice. So, this is straight off of, like, Galveston's, Visit Galveston tourist website. So that's the house. A little bit different photo than the angle that I took with my phone. By the way, those 2 photos that I showed you, I just took them with my iPhone, so that was not with my camera or anything. But this is the house, Bishop's Palace. And this is along Broadway Street. It's 3 stories tall, above a raised basement. And remember, I told you, you see that? You see that? You see that? Do you see? That's on one of the upper floors. Gorgeous, just amazing architecture. Um, it's the raised basement, remember I told you, has been converted into, like, the gift shop place. So it's a definite stop if you're going to visit the island. Do go do it. It was built in 1887 and 1892, built between 1887 and 1892 for attorney, entrepreneur, and Texas legislator Colonel Walter Gresham and his wife Josephine. It's a striking Victorian mansion. It was designed by Nicholas J. Clayton. The home is an architectural marvel, often referred to as one of the most significant Victorian residences in all of the U.S. Though commonly described as Victorian, its true style, however, is a chateau. And it was made uniquely Texan through Clayton's use of vari-colored stone, cast iron galleries, and fantastical carvings of animals, people, and mythical creatures. Yes, so that's what I was trying to convey. When you go in the house, pay attention to like the way that wood and stone were carved into these elaborate creatures. Like I seem to recall there were some lion pillars. So just really cool. With its steep roof lines, bold chimneys, and ornate details, this mansion stands as a defining feature among Galveston's historic Broadway beauties. Broadway being like the kind of like a main street in Galveston. Inside, the palace dazzles with exotic and intricate craftsmanship. Visitors enter through an arched doorway flanked by glowing sienna marble columns, and they're greeted by a soaring 14-foot ceiling, stained glass windows, an octagonal mahogany stairwell that stretches 40 feet toward a brilliant skylight. Um, it survived the 1900 storm without major damage. The home later became the residence of Bishop Christopher Byrne, which led to the current name. Today, it's operated as a museum by the Galveston Historical Foundation, and they do public tours. So that's that on that. And I do have information about haunted side of Galveston, just to give you more information about what to do if you find yourself here in Texas. If you find yourself here in Texas, and if you find yourself in the Austin way, look me up, ring me. I'd love to see ya. But if you find yourself in Galveston, there are some creepy things to do here. So, the Great Storm of 1900 is still considered to be one of the deadliest natural disasters in U.S. history. And so, if you look at Galveston in the context of that, um, of course, there's going to be unrest here. The island's history as a pirate hideout, Civil War battleground, and immigration hub adds layers of intrigue, making it a must visit for history buffs and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Um, I don't know, like if I Moody Mansion, which we didn't even get to visit. Grand Galvez, that's the other name that was mentioned. Um, Flickering Lights, The Ghost Bride. You might find the Ghost Bride there. Said a woman said to be eternally waiting for her lost love. So I don't think, yeah, no, clicking on that doesn't take us anywhere. I don't have information on what it is that is haunted about Bishop's Palace, but guests have reported, it says right here, guests have reported eerie sensations, ghostly whispers, and the lingering presence of the original residents of the Gresham family. So that's all I know about that. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things to do in Galveston, and it's a beautiful beachside community, gorgeous coast, um, with awesome do some seashell hunting. I don't know. Do some. I'm one to look at the ocean. I'm not one to go in the ocean. I myself do not tangle with the big sea. Respect the sea. That's what I always say. Okay, my friends. Well, that's it. That's what I had for you today. We were just going to discuss a little bit of coastal hauntings. If you've been to any of these places, or if you yourself reside somewhere in a coastal community and can speak to some of the haunted lore in your area, do share. Do tell us. Maybe we'll go on a hunt. Maybe we'll go to the seaside to get in a little bit of that salt air for our lungs, and also to dine amongst a few ghosts. Um, I do just want to remind you guys, let me see. I do just want to remind you again to go ahead and read that book with us, The Haunting of Alejandro by V. Castro. If you've read it before, great. If you want to reread it so you brush up, do it. If you've never read it, like I had, like I've seen it in bookstores and in libraries, and I always wanted to pick it up, never did. So thanks to this book club, I've been reading it, and it's really, really cool. Has its own little spin on the legend and lore of La Arona. So very interesting. And then that's it. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining me. Our next Creepy Cocktail Hour will be happening over on Patreon in July, and kind of thinking we're going to do our first craft along. We've talked about doing craft alongs, and it's not necessarily a craft that I would guide you through. You bring crafts that you're working on. I'm going to bring a craft that I'm working on, and we're just going to chat and have cocktails and craft. So it'll be a creepy, crafty cocktail hour. Creepy, crafty, craft cocktail hour. Yeah? I'm on to something? Try again. I'll keep trying. We'll give it a go. See what we figure out. Creepy, craft cocktail hour. We'll do something like that. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and